Over the past 90 years, the average annual return was 9.8% on the S&P Index 500. So in regards to crypto, 2017 was the year of the ICO. If you were a blind investor and you invested in all the projects, your average return would still be 13.2 times. You put in $100, you get $1,320 without even knowing what you invested into. Some ROIs were as high as 100,000%. You put in $1,000, you have yourself $1 million. If you go to ICOstats.com, the highest ROI is 598,050% return, or since the coin was launched. Today we're not talking about ICOs, we're talking about what comes after ICOs. My name is Michael Kubera. Let's get into it. On average, ICOs will fail within the first 4 months this year. So obviously the market has changed quite a bit since January's fall. Everybody got terrified. I mean, personally, my portfolio definitely took a 6-figure hit. So a lot of other individuals experienced 7, 8-figure hits. Goodbye. That is money that you could have bought cars, houses, entire people's futures. In the next generation, the next 3, 4 generations of your family would have been good for their entire lives. Boom, just like that, in a day, in a week, sometimes in an hour, gone. And are these people crazy to still keep investing? Well, ICOs aren't dead. We have to get that straight. I think ICOs are one of the revolutionary new things about crypto, and I hate using those words, but they kind of are a different investment vehicles than an IPO. In order to participate in an IPO, you need to be an accredited investor, as in by the SEC's 3 criteria. You need to be earning over $200,000 or earning over $300,000 if you're married, so both of you together, or you have $1 million net worth in assets. So yeah, that's like the top 1% of America. Okay, maybe it's a little bit more, but still, not everybody has access to that. And what if you just want to invest a couple $1,000s? Well, hello ICOs. You can suddenly have access to thousands of different companies. You can invest regardless of how much money you have, where you live, at what time. The markets are always open. Doesn't matter if you're 13 years old and want to invest $100. If you bought Bitcoin, Ethereum, or whatever other main crypto you have, you can easily convert it, or you can just send that in. Hey, you have invested into some tokens. A lot of these tokens claim they're utilities, which not really, because then they'd be offering access to a service, kind of like pay-to-play game or Uber or something like that. Most of them are just securities. They're just trading on speculation. The chairman of the SEC believes that every ICO he's seen so far has been a security. Now, we're not sure what he's seen, but it is the SEC. In total, over 4,000 ICOs have raised $12 billion plus. 4,000 ICOs. Not in addition to that, we're talking about airdrops and other tokens, and you can quite clearly see that maybe there have been as much as 10,000 projects created over the past couple of years. The ICO segment has definitely slowed down, and most of the large ICOs now are going to be privately funded. I just had an interview with a crypto company CEO. He wasn't an ICO because ICOs are banned in China, and he was able to raise his capital through 30 various funds. No one invested in that was a normal investor. I think since the markets are slowing down, eventually the fees will fall a little bit, because when everything gets inflated, so do the fees for listing on exchanges, so do the fees for advertising, for marketing. This is good if you're getting paid by the advertisers, but for the advertiser themselves, you had people paying as much as $100,000 for a single ad in one day. So we're going to be discussing security token offerings. First, we had to go through an ICO, now it's an STO. An STO is essentially a hybrid of both the ICO for crypto investors and for the institutional investors, an IPO, which you need to be the accredited investor. There are 4 rules to become a security token, which so many ICOs wanted to become, but they can't. Because in order to become one, you need to be legally approved by the SEC. That's why many ICOs are going outside of America. They're saying you can't be an investor if you're from the US. They just simply wouldn't pass regulations. They're illegal essentially. So institutional investors definitely need an STO. We identify a problem, a demand, and here is the solution. Well, a certain crowd wants an investment vehicle that isn't an ICO, that's not an IPO. Here comes the STO because it's legally allowed to be on Wall Street by the SEC, and it can go outside the realm of an IPO. Now, how do I mean that? I'm going to give an example. Let's say you throw 50 euros into real estate, a particular property that there's a lot of owners in. And I don't mean a timeshare because those are kind of scams. I mean you're treating a house more like a company where you're able to have shares, stocks of that house. So you have 1 stock, 2 stock, 10 stocks, 0.000 something percentage of that house. Now, whenever the person, the landlord, is renting out his house, every single month that he makes money, he pays out dividends to the stock owners. Maybe the person that had 1 house, thanks to the fact that he had stocks come in, he had an STO, he was able to purchase 2 more houses, which means now with 3, he's satisfying the investors, but he's also satisfying himself and the tenants because he has more in every single direction. Now you can take an STO, forget about the token offering part about it right now. A security can be real estate, it can be stocks, it can be bonds, it can be a company, any form of investment out there. As long as you're able to pay out dividends, it's profit coming in. Here's people who invested in you, see you, goodbye, you get a small percentage. For example, I sold off, technically, pieces of my Steemit account, pieces of my YouTube account, pieces of my social media that you can't buy just regularly. Oh, okay, let me go on to an exchange and here's 0.01% of AVI. This was in the past and some of these investors got monthly dividends or weekly dividends or every time a company paid, whatever the agreement upon was set. What are the 4 rules to becoming a security? The first one, must be an investment of money. The second one, money must be held in a common enterprise. 3, there must be an expectation of profit for the investors. And 4, profits are solely off of the efforts of others. So the company is producing the profits, not you. Apple is a perfect example of that. Google, Facebook, you know, the major blue chip stocks. By the way, Apple hit $1 trillion plus. They are the first company to have a market value of over $1 trillion. Steve Jobs, even though he's dead, he's happy in his grave. What are the advantages to a security token? Well, they don't avoid laws and regulations, which regulations and laws, a lot of people are looking at that. It's a bad thing. No, it's a good thing in the long run. In the short run, for a select few individuals, yeah, it's a bad thing because, oh no, you can't get rich quick anymore. But in the long run, a lot more people can make profits, the institutional investors get on board, and people are less prone to scams due to the regulatory boards. They remove financial institutions and middlemen, so there's more money to be made. There's less of a need for paperwork. There's less of a need for lawyers due to smart contracts. Since there's no middlemen, the fees are lower. What are the problems of, let's say, going onto a stock exchange? Well, Robinhood isn't really a stock exchange, but you're able to purchase some stock through it, and that's kind of cool that there's technically no fees. Now, with crypto, for example, same thing, no fees, but really you're paying fees, it's just you don't know about it. But let's say you go to Scottrade. I used to have a Scottrade account. It sucked because I was under 18, so I had to have a parent account. So whenever I had a problem, I couldn't call support. Like, they literally wouldn't talk with me. they needed the approved authorized owner, which if my dad's at work, well then I'm screwed for the next couple of hours, right? Until the next day. Oh, whoop-de-doo, great. I lost my profits. The fees are less, so huge fees are the reason why a lot of people with under $1,000 get screwed in the stock market. It's also transparent and traceable. Thank you, blockchain. So it's faster and it's less expensive, and there's all these benefits. Of course, there's some disadvantages, and as a smart investor, you will look at both sides of the coin. Let's get into it. The legal compliance is a biggie. A lot of companies just simply aren't prepared for that. They may be able to execute some of the functions, but not all of the necessary ones to get through the legal requirements, especially in America. But then for the global market, regulations will protect a lot of the consumers and investors. However, companies may not be willing to sacrifice certain elements, and they may decide to choose the ICO path, or maybe decide to do an airdrop or some other investment vehicle. When you remove the middlemen, the exchanges, the responsibilities shift. You have to go to third parties or take care of it yourself, especially at the very beginning. A lot of companies just won't be able to do that, again, turning them off from an STO. However, there's enough companies out there already, and the growing trend signals that there's plenty more to come. Just as ICOs were exploding in 2016 and 17, 2019 might definitely be a good year for STOs, and who knows about STOs this year. Bitcoin's been going back up a little bit. I mean, it fell down below 8,000 again, but hey, change comes slowly with ICOs. It was way too rapid. All of the positives of blockchain, but also the fact that the regulations can't keep up for normal investors. Institutional investors don't want to touch it because they can't deal with it. It's illegal. So STOs are probably the only way, apart from traditional methods mixed with a little bit of crypto betting, such as futures or ETFs, if the Bitcoin ETFs get approved. I remember seeing Polymath for the first time at Dallas Bitcoin Conference, so that was one of the examples. Then we have AirSwap, there's Pref Logic, a lot of people are recommending that. Swarm, that's alright. Securitize, Harbor, and actually, if you check out the links in the description below, you can find a mix of an STO and others. It gets a little bit more in depth. There's so many layers to this, but this is just the beginning. So maybe for some of you, this is the first time hearing about it. Others, we've been hearing about it for quite some time. Some people were saying privacy coins are the way to go. Other people are saying security tokens are the way to go. At the end of the day, there's so many different avenues of investments that it's best to diversify, but as a savvy investor, you get to learn about a lot of things. My name is Mike Recupera. If you enjoyed today's video, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and share. And that is that. Thanks so much for watching, guys. See you tomorrow.